it's Reetin' Yo with the Roa and the Sidewalk Pem Show. Windows crash breaks, Ubisoft's slow stories unheard, now you know. Teenagers banding are so tight, Starlink reaches with all its might. Joining Reetin' is pure delight, let's kick off this crazy night. Reetin's crew hits the mark, oh yeah. Every tale from tech to rare, gather round, it's time to share. Laughter, wisdom in the air. A roast wit so sharp you'll grin. Cyberbin, monk, let's dive in. Windows falters but we'll win. Every week let's spin that spin. Reetin's crew hits the mark, oh yeah. Every tale from tech to rare, gather round, it's time to share. Laughter, wisdom in the air. Join the ride, we're on the brink. With Reetin', we form the link. Stay tuned, friends, in just a wink. Big Ben beats the ultimate sync.
Hello and welcome to the Reetin' Entertainment Podcast, episode 467 for December 1st, 2024. My name is Nathan Rainsbruth, and joining me this week we have Andrew Roa McFain.
How many different ways can it massacre Connor's username?
I think they called him Cyberpunk Pimp. And I was like, oh, well, that's not what I wrote, but all right, that works for me. Yeah, so it did not do a very good job on that, but I did like the opening part. The kind of
Yeah.
that was like supposed to be big band type, which I think it did okay.
Sure. I mean, it did like a pop hip hop interpretation of that, I guess.
Yeah, I think
Did you hear a beep?
that was me. I
Oh.
went to go mute my microphone to clear my throat, and instead I hit the curse button. So it made a little bit of a beep. I apologize. Yeah, so it did better than the Motown last week.
Yeah, certainly.
So
Even if it really wanted to harp on the Windows thing.
it did. There was one story I wasn't able to fit in because it only gives you 200 characters to
Yeah.
type in the description. I could, like, you guys have suggested that I go on ChatGPT or Gemini or whatnot and basically have it write out the song, which you can do. And then you can put those lyrics into Suno
Mhm.
and then give it a genre and it'll like make it based off that. But the problem is that I forget to do it until about 10 minutes before the podcast starts. And so I'm like, shit. And I'm like feverishly typing and being like, create something. Do it.
To be fair, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if that's what Suno was doing in the background.
Probably. Yeah, it probably does something like that. Anyway, now that we know who we are, we did a little bit of banter. We're going to move on and ask what games you played this week.
I have played a lot of Dome Keeper.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
I've heard of it. I have not played it or seen it.
Yeah, that's where I was until I started playing it earlier this week, and I have very much been stuck on it. It's a really very engaging roguelite experience. Basically, it's like what the hell is that? Missile Command? Is that it?
Is that the one you're
the
like
old-
you're at base stations and the missiles are coming at you and you're trying to destroy the missiles as they come down to destroy you.
Yeah, so like part of the game is that where you're just in this dome in the middle of the screen and you've got to kill the monsters that are coming in. But they come in waves. So then in between waves, then you're playing Motherload or any other or SteamWorld Dig, whatever you want to compare it to, but you're digging around in a mine trying to find resources so that you can upgrade your base station and also complete one of several different possible objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And it as time goes on, the waves get more and more difficult. But it's a very good time. You can usually finish a round within like half an hour, and I think that's a really really good length. But you can also there are two larger map sizes than what I mostly play on. I haven't played on a large or a huge map yet. I would imagine that those probably get pretty absurd.
I would imagine,
So-
yeah.
But I have been playing for apparently about 13 hours so far.
Is that on Steam, mobile?
Yeah, it's a Steam game.
Okay.
I've been playing it primarily on my deck, but also on my computer. It's just a 2D like pixel art game, so it's not exactly demanding. It runs flawlessly in both cases.
I bet.
So yeah, but it's very very fun. I think I got it as part of a Humble Choice thing, but I'm pretty sure it goes on sale for pretty cheap on a regular basis, and they're still updating it fairly regularly. Yeah, it's on sale for $7 right now.
Yeah.
So
It's got the
high
Steam-
recommend.
The Black Friday sale right now on Steam, so I would
Yeah.
imagine everything's on sale basically. And did you play anything else? Any other mobile games or World of Warcraft games?
Actually, we didn't play WoW this week, which I wasn't going to complain about. There's a recent Jackbox game that it's like Jackbox Survey Scramble, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot. It's everything is based off of like survey prompts given to like every player of the game over the entire world. So like not only do the results change like over time, but also like they're extremely varied, and you can end up having like somebody can respond with something that is relatively absurd, but it's on there because enough people gave it as an answer.
So what you're telling me is you're playing Family Feud.
It is essentially Jackbox Family Feud.
Okay.
Yeah, but they do change things up. There are different game modes. One's like tic-tac-toe, where you have to come up with answers within a certain range of like its value in the responses.
Mm-hmm.
To get certain blocks. There's one where you just have to find as many responses as you can, as quickly as you can. And there's one where it's you gotta try to find the highest or the most popular response, but also the least popular response. And
Oh, interesting.
like it's fun to try to kind of thread the needle on a lot of those things. It's a very fun time, like every other Jackbox except for the Naughty Pack or whatever the hell it's called.
Was that not good? The Naughty Pack?
I mean, you look at the store page and it's like, who the fuck wanted this?
Yeah.
Like, I'm assuming somebody did. They definitely did market research and found that somebody wanted this, but I don't talk to them.
Or like they just knew like, oh, our fans like naughty, like they make naughty responses anyway, so we're gonna make a Naughty Pack for that particular
Yeah, but it's
group.
like it's so cringy.
Oh yeah. Well, like when your friend is trying to be naughty anyway on a Jackbox
Yeah.
game, there's always like one person who's just like their sense of humor is way off, and so they'll like
Yeah.
and then they continue on with that the whole time thinking that they're being hilarious. Yeah. And that's who that catered to.
What if I just answered with a dick joke on every single thing? What if I do that?
Exactly.
That'll be funny.
It'll
Yeah.
be great. It'll be great. So moving on to me, the games I played were standard. I didn't even play Black Ops this week. I just played Metaphor ReFantasio. Great game. Definitely recommend it if you're into the Persona style of games or anime. I also played that my smart Switch decided to stop working, which makes sense because it's a Belkin product. Belkin products suck.
Smart Switch.
Yeah, so it's a smart plug based, not smart switch, a smart plug.
Oh, okay.
So it controls my lighting for my streams, which, by the way, forgot to mention where you can find us, Aroa.website, and then also, of course, you can find me Reeton.twitch or twitch.tv/Reeton. I'm there Monday through Friday typically. Anyway, so I was like, man, I got them for really cheap, like a couple years ago now, and I have them linked via bat file to my Stream Deck. And the smart plug that I had decided it wanted to stop working, and it won't connect to any Wi-Fi anymore. And when you download the app, you can't even add that smart switch or smart plug to the app anymore because the app is too new and the smart plug is too old.
Oh, I hate that shit.
And so, like, in order to get it added months ago when I changed up my internet, I had to download an older version, and I was able to get it to add, and now it's just not working at all. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy different smart plugs. And then I was like, oh, wait, this one I don't have it in here to do it for my Stream Deck to be able to control the lights from there. And so I Googled it, and some guy on Reddit was like, oh yeah, what you're going to, like, somebody asked about it, like, hey, is there a way that I can control this from like a bat file or something? And some random awesome person just was like, hey man, no, you'd have to write like some code or something like that in Python and then have it like in the same folder, and then you could have a bat file that could do different things. And then like a day later, he's like, here's the code to do it. And so I just copied that over, and it works great. Just had to change the IP address.
Because I was going to suggest if you didn't come up with a solution, there's probably a Home Assistant integration for whatever product you ended up with.
There is not.
Really?
Well, okay. So I bought the one that was like $5 cheaper for two. So it's $10 instead of $15 for a 2-pack. That doesn't have the home automation one. The more expensive one has the home automation or whatever. But I was like, nah, I don't have Home Assistant. So.
Oh yeah, because like you can set up Home Assistant triggers on Steam Deck, and it's a Stream Deck. Sorry, and it's handy. I like. Yeah. So I got that Home Assistant.
I got that. I just love how you can be like, oh man, and some guy's like, nah, you need to write some code for it. Give me a second.
Yeah.
And then he wrote like this huge file that's like, I would just have done it to be like on and off, but he has like 10 different commands you can do, like to reset it and like just do a bunch of different stuff. And I'm like, why did you put this in there? But whatever. And so you just put in the name of the plug, the IP address, and then the command you want, whether it's on or off or whatever. So thank you, random Redditor who made my life a lot easier. So instead of having to open the app on my phone to turn on the lights, I can press a button on my Stream Deck.
Isn't it great that we live in current year?
First world problems. It's gonna suck when we live in next year. Yeah. So
hey,
not
did you
very
see
many...
the planet is rotated by 33.5 inches or something like that?
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's
because we're pumping so much groundwater that it's causing the planet to rotate.
That seems bad because aren't we on like a 28-degree tilt?
Something like that.
And if
Yeah.
we lose that tilt,
Everyone dies.
yeah, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Much less if it starts like wobbling, like something that wobbles a lot that I can't think of right now. But if it starts wobbling, that would be bad too.
Weebles.
Yeah, weebles.
Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
We might though.
Society does, though.
Yeah. We're gonna start talking about some news stories here, different things that happened this week. Windows, as said in the intro, Windows Update has had some fans not be able to play Ubisoft games for some reason. Which, yeah, it seems like this 24H2 update is pretty bad. A lot of the updates are bad. Like, I can't install Windows 11 on my secondary computer because there's the driver for Voicemeeter doesn't work on this version of Windows 11.
Huh?
Yeah. So I go to install it, and it says, "Oh, you're installing. Nope, can't do it because there's a driver issue with Voicemeeter that we have to fix."
Oh, I did see that on the forum the last time I went to install Voicemeeter.
Yeah.
They had like a beta version linked directly on the forum for it.
So it says here from Destructoid, as spotted by Video Games Chronicle, some Ubisoft games have stopped working after users updated their Windows 11 operating system to the latest version, Windows 11 version 24H2. Windows 11's third big update is responsible for bricking many Ubisoft's titles. It says very popular titles. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so the affected games are Star Wars Outlaws, which is brand new. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Origins, Odyssey, and Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. All those games are broken on this update for some reason. The update does not roll out immediately, so Microsoft recommends you do not use the update tools to install it manually if you're into these games. The company has stated that we recommend that you do not attempt to update manually to version 24H2 using Windows 11 Installation Assistant or the Media Creation tool until this issue has been resolved. Ubisoft has already released a temporary hotfix to make Outlaws run for people who have already updated their systems. The company warns that the software does not provide a complete solution to the issue. So it does allow you to play it, but it might not be perfect. Anyway.
What a weird problem.
It is so strange that...
why specifically a bunch of Ubisoft games?
There's got to be some like weird API calls or something, or driver calls that just don't mesh well with Windows 11 24H2.
I wonder if it's their DRM. Like they're doing some kind of arcane magic with their DRM that Microsoft broke.
That could be it, something like that. And I know when my processor was released, I have the 12900K, which is a few years old now, but still a good processor. But because of the way that Intel changed their architecture, where they have the powerful cores and then they have the efficiency cores. We spoke about it on our podcast, and if I was smart, I would have looked up which podcast that was. But when those processors released, the games, like there were certain games that just did not know how to handle having the efficiency cores and the production cores, or whatever they're called.
Yeah, and I believe the main, or at least the initial fix from Intel was to go into your BIOS and make it to where you just disabled all the efficiency cores.
Yep, that was one of the ways that you could do it, but not all. Like my BIOS doesn't allow you to do that.
Oh,
yeah. There's also a way, like some of the motherboards allow you to have you load up into Windows and then you can press like scroll lock, and if you have scroll lock enabled, it'll disable all of the efficiency cores, and then you can enable it by pressing scroll lock again.
I assume that has since been fixed either by Microsoft or by some other compatibility means of setting the affinity of
Yeah.
the executable to just performance cores.
Yeah, I think it's fixed now. But when it
Yeah.
first, yeah, so I wonder if it's something like that where it's just there's an oversight, probably with DRM, as you said, that would cause it to not work for certain, like only a handful of Ubisoft games, and newer ones. So it's
Yeah.
got to be something like DRM on these newer games.
I can't fathom what else it could be, like, because it has to be something that is specific to Windows, and like I don't know what else would change between the console and PC version of a game besides DRM implementation.
Yeah, it's got to be something like that. But we'll see. We'll see what they say. I don't know if they're actually gonna like tell us what the problem was, or if they're just gonna say it's fixed.
Yeah, I expect that at the most we'll get like there was a technical oversight, but that's been resolved. Everything's fine now.
Yeah, we'll need some leaker to come out and be like, hey, it was this. This is why.
Please go back to buying our DLC now.
Please do. Anywho, we are gonna move on. We're gonna talk about our next story. Australia is banning anybody under the age of 16 from using social media, and that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, like I on the one hand, it feels kind of messed up,
Yeah.
but I mean, it is better for everyone, I think, if children just aren't allowed onto social media platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I get it that there are going to be people who are very not happy about this. But on the other hand, I think that it's probably, again, like it's probably for the best to have these children taken away and not have to expose them to certain social media things. And 16 is still
Yeah.
pretty young.
Yeah.
It's not like
I-
they're banning everyone like under 18 or anything like that, or under 21.
What I am more concerned with is how they're going to enforce it, because I haven't read this, but I am willing to bet that the plan is to have some kind of digital ID infrastructure made, where you're going to have to upload a copy of your ID or something like that to some central database that you'll then have to authenticate against to make an account on Facebook or Twitter, whatever.
Yeah.
And one, that's a burden that these websites shouldn't necessarily have to deal with, depending on how small the website needs to be to qualify as a social media site. Because like it's either you make essentially every website that operates in Australia do it, or like you have to set the bar at like everyone with more than 500,000 users. And if you do that, then all you're really doing is just shoving kids into what the internet was whenever we were young, you know? Like
Yeah.
they're just going to end up on random forums and shit that have very small, tight-knit communities where, if anything, they're probably more likely to get exploited. So
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
I don't know.
I know that like what China does, and I'm not saying Australia is going to do this, but I think they limit they limit like how much you can be on the internet. I think for everyone, right? Or is it just minors are only allowed to be on the internet for like an hour a day or something like that? And then, in order to join a social media site, you have to provide a photo ID.
Yeah. If you want anything more than that, yeah, you gotta have an ID. And like, it almost comes down to like, you're gonna need to be able to like prove your identity just to access the internet.
Yeah.
And that seems extremely scary. Like, I don't like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, they want to do that in certain states here in the United States. Want you to have a photo ID to access certain websites,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I think, silly. But
It is absurd.
it
It
is.
is. It is a
Because,
backhanded way of controlling people.
well, and
And
that's the problem with it, as you were saying, is like, uh, when you have those certain sites, and we're talking about adult entertainment sites, right? You have,
porn.
yeah, porn. You have like Pornhub, right? They're gonna follow the law, and by
Mhm.
follow the law, I mean leave that state.
Yep.
And
Which
then
has already happened.
it has. Yeah, basically any state that's had those laws enacted, the Pornhub has just left that state.
Yep.
And
If you try to access Pornhub or Xhamster via a state that has banned access to those sites for everyone under a certain age and requires ID verification, if you go to the site, they go, "We apologize, but the state that you are accessing the site from is requiring us to do identity verification, and we don't believe in that being an effective way of preventing like exploitation of kids or whatever."
yeah.
And so we just aren't providing our services to your location.
Well, yeah, and then you have the sites that are shady. And those sites are, not based in the United States typically.
And I don't give a shit.
And they're not going to do the ID verification, so you're just directing people towards those less reputable sites. And that's not cool.
Yep.
Which is the same thing you were saying with social media. If somebody can't join Facebook, they might just go to like random forums like 4chan or something and just see the worst of the worst. Thankfully, I never got into 4chan. I always hated the layout.
I was big into 4chan when I was in high school, and I don't think it was a net positive. I'll give you that.
Yeah. No, probably not. But yeah, so I don't like this, but we'll see what. Well, I'm not necessarily opposed to Australia
I like it in
banning these
spirit.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just I don't think that there's a good way of enforcing it
No.
that doesn't involve invading privacy in some way or another.
It does say here companies that fail to comply with the new law could face fines of up to 50 million Australian dollars, which is about 32.5 United States dollars. Though it remains unclear how it would be enforced. And then the UK and several other European countries have shown interest in implementing their own age ban on social media platforms. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens there.
I think as usual, there's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the internet works by those who are in power.
Yeah,
Because
typically.
they think, well, if we keep them off the Facebook, then they won't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, nope, that's not how it works.
I mean, and then they'll just watch YouTube and be like, "Wow, what's this VPN thing I keep hearing about?"
Yeah, because that's how I knew about Xhamster and Pornhub. The way that it works is that I was connected to a VPN that happened to be hosted in one of those states, and I got that message pop up, and I was like, "Oh, that's what that."
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So, anywho, we're gonna move on to our next story. Starlink. I love and hate Starlink. I think that Starlink's a neat product, but on the other hand, I also think that Starlink is ran by a fucking crazy person, basically.
Yeah,
And the upload speed, it's got issues. Like when I was without internet for a month, the last thing I wanted to do was get Starlink, but part of me was like, I kind of might have to get Starlink. And they have their residential plan, which at the time that I was looking, it was like, it's $500 for the dish, but they were doing a sale, so it's like $300 for the dish. And then you pay $120 a month for your service. And then they have the business service, which I was looking into, which starts at like $140 a month, which isn't too bad, but you actually get a better dish. So you get a dish that's bigger. So actually, from all the YouTube videos I've seen, it has quite a few less dropouts. So you get fewer dropouts because it just has a wider dish, so it can hold on to that satellite for longer.
Sure.
$2,500 for the dish.
Oh,
That's it.
okay.
Yeah. So it's a bit more expensive for the business dish. And the $140 pricing is stupid because as a business customer, you get priority data. However, that priority data, if you're paying the $140, is 40 gigs of priority data. And then after that, it's back to big, normal, standard user data. In order to get a higher amount of priority data, it's $250 and you get a terabyte of priority data.
Oh, I see how it is. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, they've mentioned before that they want to get into like cell phones and cellular service. And so it looks like they have been approved for that. This is from Ars Technica. It says Starlink yesterday obtained federal approval to provide service to cell phones with some limits. The FCC issued an order that partially grants SpaceX application while imposing conditions and deferring a decision on some aspects of the application. It says the approval lets Starlink and T-Mobile move forward with their plan to provide satellite service to phones in cellular dead spots. SpaceX is authorized to use the 1910 to 1915 megahertz Earth to space and 1990 to 1995 megahertz space to Earth bands for SCS pursuant in his lease agreement with T-Mobile. The lease covers the continental U.S., Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico. So it looks like it would allow Starlink to have access to these bands within the United States.
Yeah.
It says through the lease agreement or arrangement with T-Mobile, SpaceX's Gen 2 Starlink satellites can enable consumers outside the range of T-Mobile's network to be connected while using their existing devices. We find that SpaceX and T-Mobile's SCS operations will yield many benefits, including an increase to access in emergency services in areas where consumers would otherwise not have the capability to access a terrestrial network, even to call or text 911, as evidenced, for example, through SpaceX's provision of emergency SCS in areas affected by hurricanes Helene and Milton. So I kind of like this. I mean, if it works out well, like, even if it's not necessarily like great service or anything, just having the ability to text somebody while you're out in the boonies or something might be helpful. So I kind of like it.
I don't entirely know, but I get the feeling that this is sort of an Apple product situation where this kind of technology has already existed for some time, and it's just that SpaceX wants to go really hard into it and make a big deal about it. Because like you look at the last couple of generations of iPhones, and they have cellular connectivity via satellite.
Yep.
So I wonder if this is just kind of expanding on that, and there's already a company out there that kind of provides this service, but it was sort of a novel idea for Apple to do it in the first place, and now SpaceX wants to try to throw their hat in the ring and really make it a big product, which, yeah, I don't disagree. I think it's cool. I'm not super hip on throwing more junk up into space, but
well, this would be using their existing satellites, I think. They're Gen 2 satellites.
I mean, it's still 7,500 more satellites that.
Oh yeah, that's what it says there, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
scrolling down.
Yeah, they were already going to go up anyway, but
Yeah.
it's still just like goddamn. Um,
Yeah, I don't think that these satellites getting launched is because of this, because of
no,
the texting and stuff. But I mean,
yeah,
if you have like, if you have Starlink and you have the mobile package where you can drive around, um, do you really need this service? I mean, because
it
theoretically, like, say
depends.
if you have an RV or something, right, and you go out in the boonies and you have the RV service for Starlink, most phones nowadays have Wi-Fi calling and Wi-Fi texting.
Yeah, but if you're out in the wilderness, like unless you unless you have like
Then you
a
deserve what you
massive
get.
oh, well,
There's a
fair enough.
reason why we created buildings with heaters inside. Okay, sorry about your damn luck.
But don't you remember the Apple Watch Ultra advertisement? The guy hiking through fucking Siberia or some shit.
No, I do not remember that, but that sounds
Yeah,
awful.
that was their that was their fucking advertisement had like a dude walking through like the worst snowstorm imaginable in the middle of fucking nowhere and a bunch of mountains and shit all around him, and it's like, oh, but luckily he could still call 911 because of his Apple Watch. Like,
That's great. That's
fuck off.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm joking. By the way, it's good if you need to have that service. I remember I went. It was in July. My friend was having like a graduation party for getting his bachelor's degree, and he decided to have it like next to a river, and we were gonna like grill up some food and stuff. But he had the place that they had decided to go, he didn't have any cell phone service. So I'm trying to figure out where they are, and I'm like like messaging him, and he couldn't get my messages until he walked back towards like the entrance to the site. It was awful. So if something like this happened where they include it with like a T-Mobile plan, I'm not sure how it's going to work. But let's say it's included with like T-Mobile, you pay an additional thing to get like satellite service when you're out in the boonies. Then that might have saved it, and so I might have been able to text him and figure out where the hell they were and not walk in the wrong direction for like 2 miles, which is what happened. But again, I'm not a huge fan of Starlink. I'm happy that I got the internet I did get because now I don't have to pay Elon Musk any money.
Yeah.
I don't want to give him money. And our last story is one that I find hilarious. The reason I was like, I saw it the other day and I was not at my computer. And so I was like, I'm going to remember that and I'm going to put it on the news stories. And then I'm like, what news story was I thinking was hilarious? And I'm like going through all my sources this morning. The headline is from Ars Technica. ISPs say that their excellent customer service is why users don't switch providers.
Oh, yes, that famously high quality ISP customer service that everyone's always going on and on about.
Yes.
How much they just love calling up AT&T or Spectrum because they are always going to talk to somebody that understands their problem and gets it dealt with post haste.
Yep. It's excuse me for 1 second. I got to clear my throat. All right, I didn't beep that time. I actually muted it. It says lobby groups for internet service providers claim that ISP's customer service is so good. It's so good already that the government shouldn't consider any new regulations to mandate improvements. They also claim ISPs face so much competition that market forces require providers to treat their customers well or lose them to their competitors.
Oh, yes. All the competition in the ISP space where one of like 4 different companies own like 90% of the physical infrastructure in the country.
Yeah, so as you know, this is bullshit. We've spoken about this before. Basically, like there are. When I used to live in a different town, there were two internet. There was a, we had like DSL, right? But DSL was shit. And then
Yeah.
there was the cable place, and I was like, I am gonna call up this other cable company that's like 40 miles away and see if they have any similar service in this area. And their response was, no, there's already a cable service provider in that area, so we're not gonna move in. So like, they just told me flat
Competition.
out that it's a monopoly.
Wait, what do you mean? You mean there's some kind of open secret cabal of
Yeah.
cable companies in the United States that all work together to charge similar prices for the same quality service?
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it if your particular company doesn't do a good job?
Yeah, it says here, US Telecom, which represents telcos such as AT&T and Verizon, said that the competitive broadband marketplace leaves providers of broadband and other communications services no choice but to provide their customers with not only high-quality broadband, but also high-quality customer service, which...
High quality customer service, like whenever you call AT&T and get transferred around 6 times without ever actually being able to have a conversation with someone because they go, oh, hold on, that's not my department. Where then you get sent to a different IVR that then eventually just hangs up on you. It's
I've
great.
had that
I love
happen.
calling AT&T.
I've had that happen multiple times. When I got a job at Consumer Cellular, I was with AT&T paying way too much money per month for my cell phone. And so I was like, oh, thank God I'm with the cell phone company. I can get cheap cell phone service. And so I did that. And so I canceled my AT&T. Actually, I did not cancel my AT&T. I transferred the numbers over to Consumer Cellular. And then I called up AT&T because I got my final bill. And I was like, I'm going to call up AT&T. I'm going to give them $200 that they want from me. And it took me 2 hours of calling different numbers before I could give them money.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, like you call the number that they give you on the sheet because you quit. But they're like, oh, you don't have an account with us, so you can't call this number.
Yeah.
And so I had to call up like multiple times. I just called the sales line and was like, I need to pay my fucking bill. And then they would transfer me to somebody and they'd be like, oh, no, actually, that's a different, as you said, that's a different department. I can't actually process your bill here. I'm going to have to transfer you. I'm like, just take my goddamn money.
And you were just a residential customer.
Uh-huh.
I was calling on behalf of a business.
Oh,
and it was
Jesus.
just as bad.
Nice.
I'm calling enterprise customer support, and it's still happening to me. Like, are you fucking kidding me, AT&T?
Yeah, I also had to call multiple times for different services, to when I was working at Consumer Cellular, just to get like numbers ported over.
And like, the thing is, it is true that like, if I'm with a company that has really, really good customer service, then it does incentivize me to stay with them. Like, I don't plan to drop Consumer Cellular whenever my grandparents are inevitably not going to need cell phones anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So like, this is a real argument that you could make, but no one's fucking making it for any ISP, not any major one.
Well,
like, because there are local ISPs, they do exist, but they are so few and far between, and they serve maybe a couple hundred customers, usually maybe several thousand at the most.
Yeah.
Whereas you have these massive fucking corporations that essentially have a fucking cabal throughout the country that just kind of do whatever the fuck they want, and they know no one can do anything about it.
Well, and a lot of those smaller ISPs are on the backs of those major ISPs like AT&T and Verizon.
I mean, you have to be on some level, like, unless you can manage to somehow wrangle your own backbone connection, like you're gonna have to hit an AT&T or Verizon line somewhere.
Yeah, and you look at like the way that some administrations treat those is they'll say like, oh, they'll like loosen regulations and make it so that like Verizon and AT&T might not have to provide those services to those smaller ISPs anymore.
Yeah, which is
which
it's
is bad.
great.
It does say here.
Let's just punish people for not living in a city.
I have to read this paragraph because it mentions Oregon. It says the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission in Northwest Oregon, where Comcast is the dominant provider, not where I'm at, told the FCC that local residents complain that automated customer service representatives spending hours on hold while attempting to navigate automated voice systems, billing problems, including getting charged after canceling service, unexpected price increases, and being charged for equipment that was returned, and service not being restored quickly after outages. The California Public Utilities Commission told the FCC that it performed a recent analysis finding that only a fraction of California households enjoy access to a highly competitive market, with only 26% of households having a choice between 2 or more broadband providers utilizing either cable or fiber optic technologies. The California agency says that this result suggests that competitive forces alone are insufficient to guarantee service quality for customers who depend upon these services. And a lot of times that's because like AT&T, Verizon, Comcast will go into a city or have already gone into a city like in the 90s or early 2000s and signed very monopolistic contracts with that city that say, hey, you can only like lay underground wire for our company.
Yeah.
Or like one of the problems like Google Fiber was having when Google Fiber was trying to roll out into different cities is the biggest problem is not running the fiber from one city to another city. The biggest problem is running fiber the last mile because a lot of times the ISPs own the telephone poles.
Mm-hmm.
So
there are a lot of cases where where I in my work would be trying to solve troubleshoot a connection issue between two different locations, and you have one company that'll own like one part of the line that connects two towns together, and then you have another company that owns the last mile after you get within city limits for each town. So you end up having to work with like 3 different companies trying to figure out where the break in the line is.
Yeah. Like I was out for a month and I don't really have very many options in my town. I thankfully, was able to find one internet company that seems to work pretty well, but it's not really comparable to the other company that I have, because right now I don't have fiber to my house. I have cable to my house, so I can get 1,000 by 20, which is ridiculous, from my cable. And the current company I have, I can get 200 by 200. So the download speed isn't anywhere near the same speed. And that's the best I can get. And it costs more than the cable company. Other than those 2 options I have, we have like CenturyLink, and that's it. Because I tried getting like even just like T-Mobile home internet, because like they were
that.
Well, they were like I just wanted something temporary, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm only going to use this for like a month and a half. I'll bite the bullet and just have something so I can go like work and watch YouTube videos and hopefully be fine. So like T-Mobile was sending like these home internet things over a year ago, and I was like, we're good. And then now it's saying it's not available. Verizon, same
what the
thing.
Fuck?
Yeah, Verizon, same thing. I think it's because they met their quota, and so they don't want to fill up the towers or whatnot. And then the only one that said that they would work with me was US Cellular, which is
and
bad.
now they're going out of business.
They're going out of business. and it was gonna cost a lot of money because it was like they wanted like $450 for their router modem combo.
What the fuck?
Yeah, but the way that it worked is if you ordered it online, then you don't have to pay that. And so it ended up like but you have to sign a 3-year agreement. So I would have had to deal with them for 3 years, taking like $50 a month, something like that. Anyway, I ordered it. I was like, you know what? Screw it. They're the only ones who are available in my area. And I had been told that the internet company that I currently went with would not work at my house because of the way the hill, like as I have hills and trees and stuff in the way. But then they came and they looked and they're like, oh, we can get it working. But anyway, US Cellular, I signed up. I ordered it. They did a fucking credit check on my, like, so it shows up in a credit report that they did a credit check. All that jazz went through. I ordered it on a Saturday. On Tuesday, they emailed me and said, we can't complete your order.
Oh. Oh, was it? Am I thinking of something else, or was that they were like out of devices or something like that?
I think I want to say that they are out of the modems.
Yeah.
But they didn't say that.
You guys, you did a fucking credit check before you like made sure you could actually complete the fucking job in the first place. Okay.
Yeah, it was some bullshit. So the only other option I would have had would been like go onto eBay and buy one for like $200, and then and that would but then I ended up like somebody's like, hey, just try this other internet company that's in town. And it was the one internet company that I hadn't tried because I tried to do a point-to-point internet company before and they had told me that it wouldn't work. And so I was like, it probably wouldn't work. And they're like, we can try. And they're like, yeah, it'll work, but we have to order a tripod. And I was like, whatever. So they had to put a tripod on top of my house, which is great when there's like 40-mile-an-hour winds and I'm just looking at it like, I wonder if that's going to blow down. They have it mounted pretty well. I will say they have that on there pretty strong. But all that to say, these lobbyists are full of shit.
Yeah. Well, there's a paragraph in here mentioning the FCC did a notice of inquiry on customer service that was approved back in October. And they mentioned that they have had to field hundreds of thousands of consumer complaints every year because they run into issues canceling their service, are saddled with unexpected charges, are upset by unexplained outages, and are frustrated with billing issues that they have not been able to resolve on their own. Many describe being stuck in, quote, doom loops that make it difficult to get a real person on the line to help with service that needs repair or to address charges they believe are a mistake. So yeah, exactly what we were just talking about.
the last section here, and I'll read the last paragraph of the last section too. There's a new administration coming in a month and a half. Don't know if you know about this. And that administration is dumb, really, really dumb. And it says here, they want to put somebody named Carr at the helm of the FCC, I believe. And it says, with Carr at the helm, ISPs are likely to get what they're asking for. No new regulations, and elimination of at least some of the current rules. And the quote is, rather than saddling communications providers with unnecessary, unlawful, and potentially harmful regulations, the commission should encourage the pro-consumer benefits of competition by reducing the regulatory burdens and disparities that are currently unfairly skewing the marketplace. So, yeah, it's basically saying that they're going to give
what if
ISPs...
we just make it worse?
Yeah, what if we just make everything worse? And make it so that the ISPs have like no oversight. That's what they want, right? That's what the consumer wants.
Yeah. If we just let actual monopolies happen, it'll be way easier.
I mean, that's already what they're doing, though. Like they already have monopolies. They just want more monopolies.
Like what if you're just legally allowed to strong arm a company out of existence because you're bigger than them, you know?
Yeah, it's silly. I do notice that my current internet provider, when I go to do a like a speed test, it goes through a company called BendTel, which is a business internet service provider around here. So my company is piggybacking off of a bigger company called BendTel, and that's why the internet service is somewhat decent.
Yeah.
Instead of TDS, which is the one that is the cable internet provider here.
Yeah. I mean, full disclosure, I have no problems with my AT&T internet.
Yeah.
I think I've had a whopping one outage that was like actually an outage in the like 2 or 3 years.
I think I remember that.
I've had them. But
I think I remember that because my podcast runs off of it.
Yeah. Like that has been it. Other than that, it's been flawless. Definitely a lot better than Spectrum, where it was like once a week.
Yeah, I had no problems with my cable internet until it just randomly decided to stop working for a month and a half.
Yeah.
And they had to send out multiple people to like look at it and get the wires ran, and then like the last guy that was here, they ran the wire across the street and then just left it there. And then another guy from the internet company had to come out and actually hook it up. And he's like, who? He's like, I was like, yeah. So the first person that came out here and like did the run, or checked all the stuff out, that was a guy named Tyler. And the guy who came out was like, I fucking know it was Tyler. Apparently, he does not like Tyler.
Sounds that way.
And so like, he's like, there's no way for me to ground this. How the fuck am I going to ground it? Because I need to ground it before I put it into your house. And I was like, I don't know. And so like, because the grounding was on the other side of the house, and the people who installed the wire didn't want to make it harder for themselves, so they just ran it to the wrong side of the house. And so I was like, well, there's this other box over here that you can open up. And he's like, that's CenturyLink. But I see a ground I'm going to steal from CenturyLink. And I was like, sweet. He's like, should I do it? Nope. I'm going to do it, though. So I like that guy.
No one's going to tell.
Yeah. He's like, you're never going to use CenturyLink. I'm like, no, fuck CenturyLink. He's like, all right. So, yeah, I mean, now I have both internets, and I have a load balancing router that I still need to hook up, so that way I can like have both of them working at the same time. But that would take like 20 minutes of work, and I don't want to do it.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, I'll get it done eventually. Anyway, yeah. So that's about it for our news stories. We're complaining about internet companies. By the way, expect these conversations to happen more and more as the years go on, because it's just going to get worse over the next 4 years.
Yep. Everything's just going to fall right into the toilet, and the planet's going to be even more on fire than it already is.
Yep.
So,
and the tilt's going to happen more, apparently.
Yep. Thanks a lot. Like 52% of America.
It wasn't even that.
49. 50 points.
It was 49. It was under 50%.
Oh,
yeah.
It was
under
the fucking third party protest voters fucked it up. Huh?
No. Even if all the third party protest voters, had voted for the other person who didn't win.
The correct person,
then we still would have been in this, because the main problem was the like 15 to 20 million people who just didn't vote this time.
Yeah.
And we're like, fuck it. Both Both candidates suck, which they did, but still. Thankfully, nobody's going to listen to this part of the podcast or podcast.
Fucking.
Anyway, yeah. It's just going to get worse because they're going to keep repealing things. Like they've tried to put a net neutrality. Net neutrality's obviously that's off the table now. That's not going to happen.
No, it's gonna be the exact opposite.
Yeah. So it's bad. Everything's
Except
bad.
they're also going to make it. They're going to try to push to make it illegal to watch porn. Like they're still gonna do that though.
That's so bad
because it's only overbearing regulation whenever it affects the profits of the companies that pay them.
Oh, of course.
Otherwise, yeah.
Anyway, we will get off our soapbox and we will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.